Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my TBR for the month of December 2023, my final TBR for 2023. On this TBR, I have 9 books, a little bit fewer than normal, but I did this so I can guarantee that I get through everything on the list, and then if I have time extra, I'll read a few books that I wasn't planning on reading. But for right now, I have 9 books on my TBR for the month of December. The first book I'll talk about is the only new release that I plan to read this month, and that is Timothy Zahn's The Icarus Twin. And that is a new release from Baen. It's part of his Icarus series. We had, back in the 90s, you had the book The Icarus Hunt come out, and then a couple decades go by, and then eventually last year, they had The Icarus Plot come out, which was a great book. And he has a bunch of sequels to the Icarus Plot coming out soon in quick succession, one of them being the Icarus Twin coming out this December. So my plan is to read that when it releases and discuss it here on the channel. And so as soon as I read that, I will put up that review. Next, I will talk about the 2 Star Wars books I plan to read this month, and those are Ascension and Apocalypse. Ascension by Christy Golden, Apocalypse by Troy Denning, both part of the Fate of the Jedi series. I am 2/3 of the way through the Fate of the Jedi. I am about to read book 7 by Aaron Alston in the month of November, at the end of November, and then I'll read these 2 in December and be done with the Fate of the Jedi series. This was kind of a quick knee-jerk reaction series. I had been reading through at the beginning of the year The Young Jedi Knights. I finished that series, and then I found the whole Fate of the Jedi series, decided to read it all, and so I will be done in December, and in January I have more Star Wars books that I've never read before that I will be giving a read, so be excited for that. But I'll be finishing up the Fate of the Jedi series in December, and we'll be reading and reviewing these books. This one by The Ascension is just shy of 500 pages. That might be one of the longest books Christy Golden has ever written. And then Apocalypse by Troy Denning is like 550 pages, which is one of the longer Star Wars books ever written as well. So I'm excited to read both of those. Those will be probably pretty easy reads. I have 1 John Grisham book for the month of December to read, and that is Ford County Stories. And this book ordinarily does not excite me because short stories and novellas are not my jam, but my dad loves this book. My dad's read most, if not all, of John Grisham's books. This is one of his absolute favorites, and he talks about it all the time. And I'm like, really? You enjoy it that much? It's just short stories, and he's constantly referencing how much he enjoyed this one. And I thought, okay, I guess I'll give it a try. It's only like 330 pages, so it's a pretty short, 340 pages, so it's a pretty short collection, but I'll give it a try, see how I enjoy it. Next, I have a science fiction book on my series. I guess you could call it a tie-in book because it ties into the Dune universe, and it's Navigators of Dune by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. This is the 3rd book in the Schools of Dune trilogy, released by Tor. I am currently almost done with the 2nd book in this trilogy as I'm recording this. I'm loving this series, really enjoying it, and so getting to do the 3rd book will be lots of fun. I actually got the 3rd book before I forgot the first 2 a couple years ago, so I had to ask for the first 2 for my birthday last year, and then I'm just now getting around to them now. And this version is signed by Kevin. So this one's shorter than the others. It's only about 550 pages. The other books are either 700 or 650 pages, so it's a little bit shorter. So I'll read this in the month of December. I do have 2 Star Trek books on my TBR. One of them is the book Imadi by Peter David. I have actually meant to read this so many times over the last 3 years, and I've had it this whole time, but just for some reason it always gets bumped off, and I forget about it for several months, or I just don't feel like I'm in the mood. And I actually had the book in my bag when I was in college a couple years ago. Like, I was going to be the next book I was going to read. Like, I was ready. And then it got wet in a rainstorm, and that was another copy. That was my paperback copy. And so I said, I'm going to put it off until I get the hardcover. And then I got the hardcover and haven't read it yet. This is one of the best-selling Star Trek novels of all time. It is also one of the most famous and one of the most beloved by a lot of fans. And so I'm very interested to read it and see if it holds up. But man, do some people I know just love that book. Next, I have the other Star Trek book I intend to read this month, or in December, is Star Trek Insurrection, the novelization by J.M. Dillard. It's based off the story by Rick Berman and Michael Piller with the screenplay by Michael Piller. This is interesting. This one, no Ronald D. Moore involved in this for some reason, which is kind of sad. But anyway, this is a pretty short novelization. It's only like 270 pages, 290 pages, I guess. So it'll be a quick read. I've enjoyed most of the other novelizations, although the most recent novelization I read was not particularly great. You'll see that pretty soon on the channel. But I'll have fun with this. This will be a quick read. Next, for my fantasy books this month, I have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon is my favorite author of all time. He is a terrific fantasy writer, science fiction. Everything he writes is great. And this was the third of the secret projects, and he holds this up as his personal favorite. And I am very excited to read it. It's not my favorite cover art design, but it's more than a minimalistic design of some of the others. And so I'm very interested to get to this. I've heard that this has a romance similar to Warbreaker, which I'm excited about. I purchased this in October when it came out in hardcover, but I just never got to it because I had other things on my plans. So this is like a delayed new release, if that makes sense. So Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is one of the fantasy books I intend to read. It's not long. It's like 350 pages. Yeah, that one won't take long. And then another pretty short fantasy book I intend to read is Aurora Borealis Bridge by Jane Linscold from her Overwear series from Baen Books. This is a fantasy novel series. I read the first one a couple months ago, really enjoyed it. I actually interviewed Miss Linscold when she was part of a short story collection anthology that she did. You can find my interview by looking up What Price Victory, Jonathan Cohn, and you'll find the interview. Anyway, and this is one of the books in her Overwear series, book 2. I believe she wrote the first 2 books as a duology and then wrote a third book that just follows up stuff. But this book is supposed to close out the duology. Very interesting premise, having 3 old women or older women be the main protagonists of this novel, this duology. And this is also pretty short. It's only like 280 pages. So this should be a pretty quick read. So that is my December 2023 TBR. It's not as big as it could be, but that's because I want to guarantee that I get to all this stuff. And then if I do get to all this stuff, maybe I'll have a few other books on the that'll magically appear this month. But this is my plan. So if you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments section down below. If you are reading any books this month of December, let me know what you plan to read. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.